The main topic I addressed today was how we go about rethinking the way that we operate our businesses in terms of our intranets and other IT applications. One of the points I made was that in the last 3 years, we've seen this large-scale migration of communication from things like traditional email to these more social models. This is now how the world works outside of our businesses, and now it's time for our businesses to catch up. So I really explored what the implications of that were going to be, what the tools would look like, how it would change how we work together, what the benefits and advantages are in terms of better productivity, faster information sharing, and then I kind of wrapped up with, all right, well, changing our thinking is going to be the hardest part about all this. When we talk about the gap between consumer social media and enterprise social media, we see the same gap that's happening with all consumer technology in the enterprise. There's a growing and widening gap between how fast large companies can adopt new technology and what's happening in the rest of the world. The rest of the world is pulling away from businesses which are looking more and more archaic all the time. So how do we solve that problem? Well, I proposed that we can't centralize all change. Right now we're waiting for the IT department to be able to fix it all, right? Say, give us a social intranet and give us mobile devices and cloud computing. We've got to start pushing the change out farther across the organization. I think organizations can close the gap between the technology they have around the intranets and social today and what's happening in the consumer space, because we really do very much see that the progress, the pace of change in the consumer world is pulling away from the enterprise. And so one of the core problems is that we're trying to use one centralized resource to be able to enable all of this change, right? Adopt cloud computing and next generation mobile and social, which are all closely related to each other. And so I think one of the major solutions is, as I mentioned about shadow IT, is now 30% of all the IT in organizations. People are taking charge of it themselves and saying, I'm not going to wait for this to happen. I'm going to drive local change. And I think when we drive local change across an organization, now you have enough people working on the change to actually be able to start closing that gap. Because right now we're seeing enterprises are looking very antiquated. I see a lot of companies where I go, wow, your intranet looks like it's from the 1990s, right? And portal. Yes, your portal. And so how do we close that gap? Well, I think it's by empowering more people to be able to make that change and improve the intranet locally. What's going to happen to the intranet? Well, I think the old intranet may serve some purpose, but I think eventually it's not going to be perceived as very useful, because anything everybody wants can be found on this new place, whatever this is, which is going to be in enterprise social media. And it'll be much more self-service, it'll be much more up-to-date, and people will get what they want there. And what will happen naturally is the old intranet just won't be that seen anymore. And at some point, it'll probably be put into a box and put onto a shelf. But I think that will happen naturally and non-disruptively, and it's happening where we see it happening in organizations. It is happening naturally and non-disruptively. Yeah, so I think that's what we're going to see.